time, every woman, it's all in me.
You are my equilibrium in chaos. My chaos is your canvas. You create masterpieces from my mess, the master of peace, and you allow me to rest my head against your chest, regrouping my thoughts back to the truth, piece by piece. Be still, I know you are a wonder, and sometimes I do too. Wonder about how you can look at this and call it home. Good day, everyone. My name is Gracia, and yeah, I'm so privileged to be sharing with you today. I'm from Worcester, in the Western Cape, but currently living in Cape Town. Yeah, so I'm really encouraged in this season by the story of Hagar, and I know it's Women's Month, so it's quite profound as well that it's a woman, and also the first woman to ever name God in the Bible. But yeah, Hagar. So she's a runaway slave, right? And the Lord meets her in the desert. She's running away, and he calls her by name and he says, Hagar, which is weird because in that time slaves weren't addressed by their name, but he's God. The Bible says the angel of the Lord said, Hagar, where do you come from? Where are you going? Which is a weird question when you know that God is all knowing. But to me, this is such an invitation, and it just shows that God is like, hey Hagar, I see you. Can you just rest and pause for a moment? Where do you come from and where are you going? And so she responds and she says, I'm running away from my mistress. She responds in the only way she knows how. She actually doesn't know where she's going at this point. And this models to me that God is not afraid to meet us in our desert and to hold space for us and to ask us questions that he already knows the answers to. But it allows us to think about it too, right? And so the Bible continues to say the Lord told her to go back. And after that he says, you are with child and you must name the child Ishmael, which means God hears, which is beautiful. And it says, because the Lord has heard and paid attention to your suffering. And so many times we sit and we think that the Lord doesn't hear us in our suffering, but the Lord runs after this runaway slave in the desert, and he says, I see you, I hear you, and I'm paying attention to your suffering. She responds and she says, you are the God who sees. Even here in the wilderness, I have seen you, the one who sees me with compassion and understanding. When God meets us in our desert and in our darkness, he not only comes to us, but he comes and he says, I see you with compassion and understanding. In the beginning, the Bible says God created, but before he created, there was darkness, it was void, and it was empty. And as human beings, we run away from those type of situations, but God is unafraid and unoffended by our darkness and by our desert places. He comes in and he says, let there be light. He looks at the emptiness and the void in our lives and he says, I see so much possibilities. And so Hagar goes back. But me, I'm like, why does this woman go back to the place that caused her so much suffering and so much pain? And as a runaway slave, when she goes back, there's a possibility that she might be killed, right? So she's risking her life as well, based on the fact that God told her to go back. And he said, your descendants, I will multiply. Which is also weird because as a slave, I'm not sure that she had a right to her descendants, right? But she goes back. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that when you are seen, because Hagar got this conviction and this revelation in the desert, that he is the God who sees. And so when God sees me, then it doesn't matter the circumstances. I will walk out this path that he set before me because he is the one who sees me. And he pays attention to me, a slave woman, right? And so I'm thinking that when you get the revelation of you are seen, it gives you hope and it gives you courage and it makes you brave. Now hope that is one thing I want to focus on today, because we all need hope today in South Africa, in the world, hope. But hope is not passive, right? Hope is not this cotton candy thing that I can just say, oh, I hope. Hope, the Bible says hope, we have this hope is an anchor for our soul. And so when I'm feeling down and I'm feeling weary, and when I'm feeling that I cannot go on anymore, God holds space for me. And the fact that He holds space for me gives me hope. And this hope is an anchor for my soul. It grounds me. It grounds me. This hope is weighty. The Bible instructs us in Hebrews, I think. Yeah, in Hebrews 10:23, the Bible says, hold fast unto hope, because He who promised is faithful. If for no other reason we have hope, we must have hope because He who promised is faithful. So Hagar is able to walk back into her suffering, walk back into the people who mistreated her, because He who promised, who gave her the promise that her descendants, she will have multiple descendants. He who promised is faithful. The Bible also says in Romans that through endurance and encouragement of the word, we might have hope. So our role in cultivating hope is to endure and to encourage ourselves in the word. And so I want to end off with this song. And I'm encouraged by the story of Hagar, that God is unafraid of my emotions. God is unafraid of my mental capacity to work things through. God is unafraid of my darkness and my desert. In fact, He runs towards it. He looks at it and says, wow, the possibilities are endless with this one. He walks into my desert, into my darkness, and He says, let's create. He says, Gracia, He says, daughter, whoever is watching this thing, He says, I'm holding space for you. Kom net nader. Kom net nader. Die kar is afgeskryf, maar ek het hier skaap my lyf gelowig gesê, ek moet getuig gemaak, moet eerlik wees. In my hart is 'n kruis, die een kan vra, hoekom moes my pa sterf? Die ander wil weet, hoe is dit moontlik dat hy my kon save? My journey is uitgeskryf, ek's glo gemaak om my te styg, maar soms verleer die ruimte tuig. As ek maar net moet tuis bly, dis okay. Want dis so weighty task om space te create vir meer mense wat so siek lyk, maar Roverotse kan ook blink wanneer hy sy hand daarop sit. Druk, net genoeg presse om weer lewe te bring. Kom net nader. Kom net nader. Kom ons dan huis uit. Pak seer in 'n boks en skenk dit vir liefdadigheid. Liefde vereis dade en syne, daag my uit, kom nader. 50 vensters blink sodat lig weer effortlessly kan binnendring. Kyk hoe lig alweer die donker oorwin. En om daarom te sing, haal diep asem en laat die melodies vars lig inbring. En om daarom te dans, soos die ritme van sy hart nuwe lewe bring. Kom nader. Jy het jou ore uitgeleen vir leens en nou sukkel jy om te glo dat oorvloed oorbly. Wanneer jy die onnodige weggooi, kom nader. Sit jou kop teen sy bors en luister. Hoor jy hoe die waarheid klop in die hart van die Vader, kom nader. Daar's meer tot die lewe as om net te oorleef. Daar is so baie om voor te leef. Kom net nader. Kom net nader.